Your Excellencies, my Lord, Sir Brian, Dr. Jones, and as I learned to say in South Africa, where I served for a number of years, all the feathers of the eagle. All the feathers of the eagle. And that's each and every one of you. And it comes from that wonderful African proverb that it's each and every feather that makes the eagle fly. You know how significant the eagle is in our culture and in so many cultures. And when you think of that great bird and all the different feathers, different weights, different sizes, different colors, it's them all working together in that miraculous way that causes that great bird to take flight. And so it is with the cause of agriculture and agricultural production in the continent of Africa. It will take each of us in our different ways, with our different skills, with the different things that we contribute towards the task in order to ensure that Africa fulfills its potential. Now, I must put my hands up at the very beginning and say that I am the grandson of farmers, of cocoa farmers in the Achim region of Ghana, the Gold Coast as was, cocoa farmers, but also cassava farmers, because my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was a great innovator when it came to growing cassava. And I think we should never forget the significance of rural agricultural innovators. Sometimes we can get so hung up on big science that we forget local innovation. And it's both working together, it seems to me, that we need to tap and that we need to draw on in terms of Africa's development. And I learned a number of things from my grandparents. First of all, and importantly, that research and development is critical and that we have to invest in R&D. My grandmother lost her farm to R&D, or lost part of her farm to R&D, because the colonial masters at the time confiscated, without compensation, I might add, and I'm not that I'm making any claims now, confiscated without compensation the land that formed the original West African Cocoa Research Institute. And it was called at that time the West African Cocoa Research Institute, a world-beating center for R&D in cocoa and related and cocoa-related issues. The sad truth is that that which was in the 1940s is now in the second decade of the 21st century, a resource for Ghana, and Ghana alone, but a sadly depleted resource in terms of levels of investment, and no longer a regional resource. That's the sad news. The good news is that we are now witnessing a resurgence of commitment to R&D, to investment in agriculture on the continent that is making a difference. If you take Ghana as an example, in the context of the Maputo commitments, the Africa Union commitments to agriculture, Ghana is now spending some 9.9% of its budget on agriculture and agricultural development. If you take Burkina Faso as another example, 16.9% of public spending. So even though only a fifth of Africa's nations are on target in terms of the Maputo commitment of 10% of spending and 6% growth, The good news is that the Africa Union and individual African countries are beginning to make real headway. And for the doubters, you have only to look at the recent declaration that came and communique that came out of the AU-EU budget, AU-EU summit, that will have real budgetary implications for both the EU and the AU, and for individual African countries, where we saw a renewed commitment, not just simply to agriculture, but importantly, in my view, to higher education, to science, technology, and innovation. And that, I think, is where so many of you around this room come into the picture, because we know that agricultural extension, backed up by good science, supportive of innovators nationally and locally, can make a massive impact on production, can make a massive impact on food security, and transform rural lives. Now, I just want to end on this, but I do think that there are some real exemplars out there in Africa at this time. A number of them represented by colleagues from the diplomatic community here this afternoon. It's invidious to pick nations out, but you cannot but reflect on the successes not only of Ghana, which by just some strange coincidence happens to come immediately to my tongue, but also and significantly Mozambique, but also and significantly Ethiopia, also and significantly Nigeria, where in each of those countries the emphasis is put on extension, yes, on science, yes, but always, always, always recognizing the importance of linking rural with urban, recognizing the importance too of the nation itself setting its own agenda and not allowing itself to be buffeted by the winds of fashion and fad that all too often affect development. Africa must set its own agenda. Set its own agenda with the support and engagement of friends, so many in this room, from both houses of Parliament, from all aspects of the scientific and industrial communities. But the agenda must be an African one. And the good news is that when we are open to research and development, to GM and non-GM alike, not forgetting the incredible achievements. I just take one example here, if you excuse me again for being a little parochial. It's just up the river, as it were, in Burkina Faso. When you look at what the impact on bollworm has been of GM there, if you look at the impact that's made on livelihoods, 44% increase in the nuts and bolts of livelihood, the money coming into the families, the tens of thousands of jobs that have been created as a result of the revolution that's occurred in cotton in Burkina Faso. It would be a crime just to sweep that and all the science behind it aside on the basis of a prejudice. Let me put it in that way. So openness of mind, all of us in our different ways, our different regions, our different nations, our different skills, our different disciplines, working together, each and every feather working together. And then the eagle of African agriculture can truly soar.